Silence by Mel Wardle Woodend, Staffordshire Poet Laureate 2019 to 2022. Silence 2019. A paper poppy lies trodden on a tarmac street, damp, damaged, dirted by the soles of shiny boots from stamping feet, on a Remembrance Day parade. Marching to remember former soldiers, souls fallen. Marching to remember those who faced death on cold, muddy fields far from home. Marching to remember those who went away and never returned. Rows of poppies pinned to lapels gleam across wooden pews in a chilly church. A sign of respect, heads bowed, we remember the fallen who died at service. After the service we returned to our warm homes, thankful that our freedom was fought for and our safety was preserved. Silence 2020. This is the year of COVID, the year we must stay at home to save lives, so we do. Wooden pews remain empty and boots do not sparkle and stamp on damp streets on parade. We stay at home, remembering in a different way. Paper poppies pinned to cardigans and shirts gleam in homes across the land where in living rooms people stand, a sign of respect. Heads bowed, we remember the fallen. We remember in a different way, but we remember the same, and after watching memorial programmes on television sets, we turn back to our Sunday activities, remembering that our freedom was fought for, and our safety must be preserved.
A huge thank you to Lena Batchelor, Worcestershire Poet Laureate, for including me on this really special project. This is my contribution to the Poppy Appeal Poetry event, and this is Quiet Gratitude. I take it for granted, this quiet stretch of land laid out for miles, a fresh green canvas for wildflowers, poppies. For me, it's always been here. The land and sea and Mother England that cradles lads and ladies to her bosom. But the earth itself remembers. Soft footfalls of the too young, sneaking away during the night, the older, well-versed kissing goodbye of loved ones as though leaving forever, the midwives made into husbands to hold the newborns of the war. This soil keeps a tally of bombs that have lost their tick, and blades once sharp but blunted by time and change and this long recovery. We may lose the knack of knowing, first-hand how it felt to feel the ground shake, to know the world had juddered rather than turned. Though this mother's mud holds the memories, recounts how men laid down and died on her so their sons and daughters might know the meaning of England. They deserve more than a single stretch of sun around the earth. A constant, quiet gratitude, at very least.
Hello, my name's Kevin Brooke, and this poem was published in a pamphlet called Remembering the Somme, a living memory project written by members of Worcester Writers' Circle in 2016. The poem is called The Rivers of 1916. A river in northern France collects the blood that seeps from the wound of a broken man. Beneath a blanket of darkness, a stretcher bears his weight. It places his suffering shattered frame amongst the rows of soldiers, of sons, of brothers, each of whom attempted with pride to breach the German line. 3 months later, the man returns home to Worcester to rest below a blanket of earth. A man who'd placed his faith in Kitchener's call says farewell. Farewell to his wife, daughter and mother, each of whom had endeavoured with love to keep him alive, but whose tears now slip down the banks of the River Severn. Thank you. My name is Kevin Brooke. This poem was first read at Fort Royal Park, Worcester, at the lighting of the beacon in 2018. It's a children's poem. It's called When Daddy Went to War. I am so proud of Daddy. He's on his way to France. I wish I could go with him and join the great advance. I watched him go with all my friends. We stood in one great line. We waved our flags and said goodbye as their dads marched with mine. They'd volunteered and left their jobs. A few worked at our school. There once was lots of men around, but now there's none at all. I am so proud of Daddy. I really miss him though. I hope and pray he comes back soon. But why did he have to go?
Hi, I'm Polly Stratton, and here's a poem for Lena's project. It's the 2020 version of Tender Fruit. You must have smelled the plums, each one I picked and ate. They're telling me to pant, that you're not ready yet. You must have felt the ladder pressed against your silhouette. They're telling me to take deep breaths, that I'm not ready yet. Purple plum blooms soft, it rubs off to the touch. They're telling me to push, that the pain is not too much. See the rotten plums fall, waspy with decay. They say that I am bleeding, you must be born without delay. I glimpse your wrinkled face, hear your lusty cry. They say that I am fading, fading, fading. Hi, I'm Polly Stratton, and this is a poem for Lena's project. It's called Servants of World War I. The women who served in the First World War, who gave what they had and then gave more, the ones who waved their fiancés away, knowing they might not return come the day. The army was running short of men, too many dead to reproach or condemn. No woman sat to twiddle her thumbs. Into the fray went buns and tongues. They formed the Women's Legion, went to work to give us freedom, their kit from caps to skirts in khaki. No one had time for misery or malarkey. In droves they joined the Auxiliary Corps or the Women's Royal Air Force, served with the men in the Medical Corps, VADs, on a voluntary tour. Workers in factories, cooks and mechanics, drivers, typists, no time for panics. The wartime state needed women's labour. This wasn't a case of love thy neighbour. The Women's Emergency Corps, a clearinghouse, it evened the score. The skirts 12 inches from the ground. Any less, it was thought, would the men confound. But men had no time to be confounded or think of skirt lengths. Such fears were unfounded. All were too busy to bask in trivia. The focus to win, to live through the war.
Hello, my name is Amanda Bonnick and I'd like to read you a poem about Remembrance Day, and it's one that I've written and it's called Poppy by the Severn. Pausing by the river's edge, I see a single poppy grow, tall and thin among the weeds, solitary, blazing. It knows itself, a flower that stands for suffering, courage, death and loss, forever staining red the near-forgotten battlefields. It talks of blood-soaked land that feeds its roots, of brave farewells and no returns, grinning lads, dead far away. It says it thinks its duty done if all who stop and see it here, or there, or anywhere, remembers every sacrifice, blasted heads and tangled limbs, a generation milled and crushed to feed the earth, and keeps each boy close in their hearts to reach their immortality. It remembers, too, a time before before the war to end all wars, when it was just a coquelicot, an innocent coquette, a tease, a crimson glimpse among the summer wheat. Thank you.
I do not know your name, nor for which battle you died. I do not know your home, nor the tears that were cried. I do not know where you rest, nor the promises broken. I do not know your uniform, and your fears lie unspoken. But I know your spirit exists, that your courage is admired, and your sacrifice is honoured by each soul that's inspired. And I offer you from my heart, thank you to guardians unknown for offering yourselves for us all, that we may keep our freedom, our home. Remembrance. We will remember with sombre silence, whilst inside there is a constant roar. Thoughts of how can this continue? Why? Still no peace, but always war. Poppy. Feel the tug and loss of each petal, war upon skin, tears upon the red carpet, dry seed head and upright stalk, a marker for the fallen but not forgotten.
Hi, my name's Lydia Sophia and this is my poem, The Corn Rose. She has known fighting too, though it doesn't show, as the blowing wind commands her in a graceful dance. How neatly she raises her skirt and tiptoes through the blood-soaked earth, shaking like the twist of a pepper pot in a battlefield boom. Through a mustard haze the fallen soldier sees her, red skirt skimming the sky, a streak of violence through the blue like some bloody, like a paintbrush birthing colour anew. The doll wears a gown of a deeper crimson in these fields than she parades across the roadside verges of home. She has sprung up from under mud-caked boots that beat to the drum of gun metal. Some say she can take you far away. No more snap of bone or split of shrapnel, just dreaming. No more strangled gasps for life that echo through the walls of a closing throat, just dreaming. No more shock at all he's seen, just dreaming. Scorched lids closing on all that, and nothing left but red, as he bleeds out a final thought that back home some people call her a weed. Among her seeds, the sleeping soldier dreams in red. Thank you.
Great War Ends. Holding their guns like shepherd's crooks, they emerge from the trenches. Boys, now heroes, fill the boots of men. They cannot believe it's over, can't conceive of a warless day. Sitting around log fires, they reassure themselves there is no enemy battery waiting, spying on them from the next hill. Their nervous voices committed to whispers and low tones, one eye on the sky. Some fade into exhausted sleep. All remember their fallen comrades, the crude little crosses that mark their graves. Minds numbed by the shock of peace. One boy dreams of canal boats in the south of France, all of sun, of freedom.
Suz Winspear. Poppies. He sells those scarlet paper flowers outside the supermarket, bundled in his quilted coat against November chills. He who used to stand so straight now sits down in a folded chair, and every year he sells them in remembrance of his friends. A small girl buys a poppy, encouraged by her mother. She reaches up to put the money in the tin. He passes her the flower and thinks of Jim, who had a daughter much like her, a photograph he carried everywhere and showed it to the whole platoon. A young lad buys a poppy, who makes him think of Bob, always ready with a joke, a laughing quip to brighten up the grimmest day, longing for his beer and cigarettes. A couple buy a poppy each, reminding him of Reg, forever writing to his wife at home, full of love and missing her, who kept her letters close. The busking boy with his guitar divvies up his takings, spares what he can to buy a poppy. The poppy seller thinks of Luke, musician with a dance band, who hoped to make it big. He could have done, he had the skill, but history and fate said otherwise. He sells those scarlet paper flowers in everlasting memory, sells his poppies every year in remembrance of his friends. Afterwards, he goes back home to photographs and memories and the guilt of the survivor. Thank you to everyone who have submitted their thoughts for tonight. And I truly hope that you have all enjoyed this moment to reflect and remember our heroes, both serving, past, present, fallen, still standing. Tonight, here's a poem from myself. 2 minutes silence. You see me as an old man, but I was young then, and in my mind and heart, I still am. You ask why I'm relevant now. I say, this is about now, not being then. You see me as frail, but I was brave back then, and in my heart, I still am. You ask why we stand in silence. I say, you need to hear the whispers of the fallen, those who could have been your friend's father, your mother's brother. I say you need to realize you would not be here if your grandfather had not served in the war. You see me now for who I was and am. You recall them in the silence. We will remember. Thank you for listening.